Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. So the other week, I was mentioning how living life on your terms and, following your dreams. But what is it that you really want? How do you know what you want if you've been following down somebody else's path? I know for me, you can get really lost in, shoulda, coulda, wouldas and like everything. It just can get really messy, especially like I should do this, I should do that. And then like we can get lost in the past where it's like, I could have done this and, I would have done this if I could have done that. Like it can get really messy. We can get really lost in our heads. So it's about coming from our heads and coming down to our heart. It's really, really bringing it down and getting to your heart, having a conversation with yourself, with your heart. What is it that you want? So it's thinking about like what brings you joy. What would you do if you could wave a magic wand? What would you do if the possibilities were endless? Because here's a quote that like it's something I personally believe in, and it's something a quote that I came up with a few years ago is anything is possible when you stop telling yourself it isn't. So if you just let down every guard, it's like if anything was possible, what would you want? What would your life look like? When you wake up in the morning, what would your life look like? Where would you wake up? Like where would you be when you woke up? Even imagine the room and the person you'd be with or not be with. Who's in your life? What are you doing? How are you feeling? And these are really good tools to do in a journal. And if you're really lost and you're really unsure of where you want to go, like maybe you just felt like you're floating, you're not sure where you want to go, or you have a million different things and you want to go everywhere, but you're not sure where to start, I really encourage you to journal and just picture how it'd be like to wake up in your, I'd like to say perfect life, but you're like the life that just brings you so much joy. That would make you go, wow, I am living this life. Because in all honesty, I am living my wow life right now. I am literally looking at the mountains and a floater plane I got to watch the takeoff, and it is amazing. The other day I was gardening, and we just have the garden boxes this year because I don't want to deal with having the deer and figuring out the fence and stuff. Baby steps, right? I talk about this, baby steps. So I have a garden box, and I was staring the garden boxes, and I literally got to watch two eagles flying and talking with each other, and there's a nest just not too far from our house, so I can even watch it from our living room. And then a floater plane was taking off, and it's just this wow, that wow moment. That is what you're trying to find within your wow-ness. And for me, this is how I figured out what I wanted. Now, do I have what I all want? No, but I'm pretty darn happy with where I'm at right now. Like super happy. Yes, is there stress in my life? Yes, I have 2 young kids, and life is awesome and challenging all at once. So it's not always happy rainbows, butterflies, sunshine all the time. However, I'm in awe and I wow myself. Like I'm in awe, and just every morning I wake up and go, wow, like this is my life. This is happening. And I want that for you. So what happened was, I think it was when my daughter was like super young, like I think just born, and she's 7 now. I remember talking to a family friend about living somewhere different. But I was like, I am so afraid of family not liking me or hating me. And I shared this, and she's like, they love you and they will do what you want. So this is 7 years ago. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, so it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, but I wasn't ready to fully leap forward yet. And I wasn't even sure where. So my husband and I talked about going to Australia because we don't really like winter and we wanted water. Like we've been talking back and forth, and I didn't really know what I wanted. And then, we would spend an hour and a half to drive to a beach. And I really was like, maybe we should move here. This is beautiful. It was on Lake Huron. And, I thought about it. But then every winter we're like, oh, we don't like the snow and the ups and actually even worse, what we like even less than the snow was the snow melt, rain, freeze, like ice, snow, and like the crazy mixed bag we got. And eventually we're like, okay, we know one thing. Let's be done with like the snow. Let's get done with that, or at least mostly. And I felt most comfortable living in Canada and staying in Canada. And I really just was like, no, this is home. And I felt that was where I wanted to be. And then I know a few years ago, I went to a trip to California, San Francisco, for a mastermind group. And it was the landing, like just being on the plane and just about to land, and with the mountains and the ocean, I cried. I literally had tears running down my face. I was at awe of the mountains and the ocean, and I just was like overwhelmed with amazingness from that moment. And then I shared that with my husband, and like it just felt like coming home. It felt homey, but I couldn't see where we were, like how that was going to work yet. But I knew it was the seeds were starting to be planted. I finally was figuring out what I wanted. And then, we kept going back to staying in Ontario because that's where family was. And, fear got in the way there, and still some family expectations, and, just not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings. I got let fear and life get in the way. But then I couldn't stop the voice from within, whispering. And then the whispers got louder and louder and louder until, I was starting to really research towns in BC. And in all honesty, I've never been to BC before we moved here. Well, before I looked for houses here, I was the one to go because I wanted to make sure I'm a little bit more picky when it comes to things than my husband is, especially when it comes to a house. He's like, as long as it has a roof and walls, I'm good. And for me, I had a little bit more. I just wanted, I have things about feelings and space and just things like that. And it was important for me to go to make sure I liked BC before we bought a house here. Anyways, so I had no idea about anything in BC. So, I mentioned this before. I love Hallmark movies, and I would just do my research. Be like, oh, where was this one filmed? It looks nice. And nothing felt right until I stumbled upon one that did. And actually, it wasn't even that. It was like the view. It was just amazing looking. And I was like, this is it, hun. Like, this is where we're moving. Wherever this is filmed, we're moving there. Like, that's it. And we didn't even know we were moving yet. Like, it just felt right, though. So what I'm trying to get at with these long, crazy stories is you might not know what exactly you want right now. Just start the conversation with yourself. Start building a relationship with yourself. Like, really, what brings you joy? For me, it was water, and it was a more consistent temperature. I love it here. The temperature goes up a little bit or down a little bit. It doesn't go from like 0 or 1 to 10 or 15 overnight. It stays more consistent. And there's nothing wrong if you love that. I personally got so sick, like physically and mentally from it. Just so exhausted. And I have not had a single cold. Like, I had hints of it. And when we had snow for 2 days here, it dumped and then it stayed for a day and then it left. And I got sick in that day. I even joked to my husband, I'm like, I guess I'm afraid, or I even joked with my husband, I guess I'm a little allergic to snow, or I'm a lot allergic to snow. Good thing we moved. And maybe it's a mental thing, but I really like how it is here. And that's just my personal preference. There's nothing wrong with where you're living if that's what makes you happy and brings you joy. And the thing is, it's just getting clear. So I knew I wanted to be near water. And then with that love of mountains, like it just, so awesome. And I'm just so grateful for where we actually found our home, or the home found us, really, because of how things worked out. But anyways, that's a whole other story for a whole other day. I get to look at the mountains from my living room and my office. I get to watch floater planes go down on the ocean. Like, it's just, it's amazing. And just every time, I've only flown here a few times now, but each time, like when I came here to look at homes before buying, I remember crying on the plane too. Like every time I see the mountains and the ocean, it just feels like home. So if you don't know exactly where you're headed or where you want to go, just baby steps, thinking about like what brings you joy. That feeling of home. Like I have never felt so at home in my life. And it's so incredibly crazy and scary and maybe even a hint of sad that I could have stayed in Ontario because I was afraid. I was afraid of going outside of my comfort zone, out of my family's comfort zone. And when I mean family, I mean like extended family. Everybody I know, or at least close by, has always lived in Ontario, always lived pretty much in the same area. And I could have let that stop me from this feeling that I have right now. I'm almost crying with joy right now as I talk about it. I can't believe that I'm here right now. But it took me little steps to get to where I am. And like, it's amazing. Everywhere I go, obviously there's restrictions in place as I'm recording this still. So I don't get to gather and hang out as much as I'd like. But every single person I meet, I just feel like this is exactly where I need to be. Like, I just feel like it's so at home here. So with like surrounded by amazing, loving, awesome people. Like it just is amazing. And I was a little worried because we had our daughter in a forest school back in Waterloo, and my son wasn't going to experience that. And now like we're out here and my daughter goes to the forest almost every day with school. So it's not a forest school program, but the principal really likes outdoor learning. So it's just incredible what you can manifest and bring into your life when you know what you want and what you don't want. And if you're having a hard time with what you want, make a list of what you don't want. I don't do this very often on the podcast because coffee chat is more for, little tips and activities and things like that. This is my platform for sharing and encouraging and motivating. And yes, I might give a little bit of tips, but if you're sitting here and you're like, I don't know what I want, make a list. Make a list of things that make you happy, that bring you joy, that you're like, you could see happen in your life, or maybe not happen, but by some fluke that maybe some magic miracle happens you would really love that to happen. Make a list. Nothing is too big or too small. Make it. Make anything and everything. Anything is possible when you stop telling yourself it isn't. So just put anything down. It doesn't matter how or if it will happen, because in my opinion, it can happen. Anyways, so then write a list, and this is actually a little easier in my opinion, is write a list of what you don't want. Write a list of what you don't want. So, and it helps like writing a list, and then beside it, if you don't want that, what do you want? Right? Like, so one of the biggest things is we're living in Waterloo, Ontario. And I mentioned we had to drive about an hour and a half to like a really nice beach that felt like it was on the ocean, like very open and awesome. Like, yes, there were smaller lakes. My grandma had a cottage on a man-made lake that was a half hour from us, or about 25 minutes. And that seemed to fill my void of water for a while. And then actually that was really the tipping point, was when she sold it. It was like, oh, I won't have water half an hour away anymore. I need to change this. And, just one thing after another. But the thing is, I knew I wanted to be near water. And, first it came, I knew I didn't want to be landlocked anymore. It's like, I really need water. And I don't want, and anyways, yeah. So it's like, I don't want the hot summers and things like that. And I don't want to drive an hour and a half to the beach. So you can sometimes start with, I don't want, to find what you do want. I always had to focus on what I wanted or on the positive, but sometimes you got to go to the negative to find the positive so you can start living life in like the most amazing, beautiful ways. Really wow your life. So if you don't know exactly where to start, sometimes the best way to start is what you don't like in your life, or what you don't want anymore. What you're like, I am so over this. It's not serving me anymore. Like, let's get on with this. And then figuring out what it is you want instead. And again, you can always come back to the question, if I had a magic wand, or imagine that I'm waving a magic wand at you right now, what would your life look like? What would your life look like? What would you be doing? Who would you be? How would you be showing up in the world? Who would you be surrounded by? Where would you be living? And, who would you be sharing it with? Obviously, all those things don't have to be answered all at once. They don't all have to happen at once. Just start to dream. I love daydreaming. I feel like I haven't done that much lately. I've just been in all of my surroundings. But as a kid, I would literally spend afternoons. I lived in a little country town, half an hour away from Waterloo. And, it's farm, Mennonite country. And I literally just spend the afternoon staring out my bedroom window, dreaming of a life I wanted to live. And, I'm not saying it's healthy, but I daydreamed a lot. And it was actually my saving grace as a kid. And it's okay to daydream. It's okay to sit out, under the sun or under the stars, wherever you want to be, look at a window and just let your mind wander. If you don't allow yourself to listen to your heart, listen from within, you'll never know what you truly want. I hope you have an amazing, beautiful, loving day. Bye for now.